When I walked into my parents' house that afternoon, I stopped in the doorway like I had hit a wall. My mother's voice floated out from the dining room, calm, controlled, almost proud. "My sister's kids eat first," she said. "And Marie's boys can wait for whatever is left." My sister laughed. My father kept eating, eyes never lifting from his plate. In the corner, my sons sat on folding chairs, Aiden and Noah, each holding an empty plate balanced on their knees, pretending they were fine, pretending they were not starving. My chest tightened, but inside me everything went quiet, almost eerily still. I did not argue. I did not explain. I did not make a scene. I just walked over, touched each boy gently on the shoulder, and said, "Get your shoes, love. We are going home." They stood up without a question. Nobody at that table stopped us. Nobody called my name. The only sound was my sister, Hannah, telling her kids, Chloe and Mason, to hurry up and eat before the food got cold. They had no idea that the moment they pushed my sons into that corner, they pushed themselves somewhere much worse. Not a fight, not a screaming match, but a place where my support, my money, and my patience no longer existed. Yes, my name is Marie. And if I am being honest, what happened in that dining room was not some random shock. It was just the first time their system became so obvious that even I could not excuse it anymore. The hierarchy had been built for years. That day, it finally showed itself with the volume turned all the way up. The pattern started long before Aiden and Noah were born. When I was 17, working my first part-time job at a grocery store, my mother, Linda, came to me with that tired, fragile voice she used whenever she wanted something. "We are a little short on groceries this week," she said. "Could you help out a bit? Just until we catch up." My father, Robert, nodded like a judge delivering a ruling. "It will teach you responsibility," he said. "Good practice for adulthood. 20 here, 50 there. A little for gas. A little for a bill." It sounded small every time, but it never stopped. Before I even realized what I was doing, giving had become automatic. First a kindness, then a habit, then an obligation. By the time I got to college, they were texting me pictures of overdue notices and handwritten, urgent notes about repairs. When I called to ask if everything was okay, Linda's voice would tremble at the exact right moments. "We will be fine," she would say. "We do not want to bother you, sweetheart." Then she would pause just long enough for guilt to fill the silence. Looking back, it was not worry. It was choreography. When I graduated and landed my first real job, the tone shifted. The requests were no longer, "Can you help?" They became, "We need you." Dental work for Robert. A broken fridge. A surprise car repair. It somehow always lined up with payday. Every time I thought, family helps family, right? Then I met Marcus. Marcus is not loud. He is not dramatic. He is the kind of man who pays attention. He watched the pattern long before I did. One night he asked me, very gently, "Do they ever offer to help us, or is it only you helping them?" I laughed it off. "They are just under pressure," I said. "I am the one with the stable job. It is fine." But every holiday, every birthday, every get-together, he stood a little further back, like he understood he was not written into their script. Then our boys came. When Aiden was born, my mother held him like he was something fragile, not because he was precious, but like she did not know where he belonged. When Noah arrived 2 years later, my father shook Marcus' hand and said congratulations, but his eyes slid past the baby like he was already calculating where this child fit in the family map. I told myself I was imagining it. I blamed hormones, stress, exhaustion. Anything but what was really happening. But kids feel what adults refuse to name. Aiden learned early that his cousins went first. First turn at the game. First slice of cake. First pick of toys. He learned to wait without being told. Noah picked up on the seating pattern. Chloe and Mason at the main table, right next to the adults. Aiden and Noah told to go play in the other room, where the snacks were whatever was left. Every time I felt anger rise in my chest, I swallowed it down. And told myself, do not make trouble. Do not be dramatic. That is just how it is. The money never stopped flowing out of our account. Mortgage help. Medical bills. A temporary loan for Hannah. A roof repair. This will be the last time. We are just in a rough patch. You are the only one who really understands. I thought if I gave enough, if I helped enough, eventually love would balance out. That if I sacrificed, they would see my sons the way they saw my sister's kids. They did not. So when I walked into that dining room and saw Aiden and Noah pushed into a corner with empty plates, it was not a surprise. It was confirmation. Chloe and Mason were on their second serving of pasta, sitting in the nice chairs, laughing, talking, completely at ease. My boys sat close together, staring at the tablecloth like it had answers. Hannah joked about how real families know their place. Linda nodded like this was wisdom. Robert said nothing, which in our house was the same as agreement. Standing there in the doorway, I understood something very clearly. I had been paying for this hierarchy. I had been financing a system that treated my children as leftovers. I was not just helping them survive. I was helping them make my sons small. And when Aiden looked at me, just for a second, I saw it. He was not confused. He was not waiting for an explanation. He already knew. He knew they did not see him as equal. He knew he was expected to take what was left and be grateful. That look broke something in me that was never going to grow back. That was the real moment. Not the crumbs. Not the empty plates. Not even the words. It was the way my child had already learned to accept less. I knew right then that nothing I said in that house would change who they were. No speech, no argument, no crying scene would flip their thinking. But there was something I could change. The system they sat on, the one built on my money, my help, my silence. I walked out that night without slamming a door, without raising my voice, without announcing anything. I just took my sons and left. They thought it was another quiet exit. They had no idea it was the last one. Back at home, Marcus opened the front door before I even got the keys out of my bag. One look at my face, one look at the boys, and he did not waste time with, "What happened?" "Let us get them settled first," he said. He found Aiden's drawing book and set him up at the table. He turned on Noah's favorite nature documentary and tucked a blanket around him on the couch. Only when they were busy, safe, and occupied did he come back to the kitchen and lean against the counter. "What did they do?" he asked quietly. I swallowed hard. "My mother said Hannah's kids eat first," I whispered. "And my boys can wait for the crumbs." My father agreed. Hannah laughed. The muscle in his jaw shifted, but he did not explode. He just shook his head once. "Marie," he said, "you have been paying their bills for years. Mortgage, car, emergencies. You keep that house standing. And they still think your children belong on the floor." I waited for myself to defend them, the way I always did. Nothing came out. The truth had already settled in my throat. There was nothing left to cover. "They do not see Aiden and Noah as family," Marcus said. "They see them as an inconvenience. And they see you as a wallet attached to the inconvenience." The silence that followed did not feel like defeat. It felt like a door finally closing. He reached out and took my hand. "So," he asked softly, "what do you want to do?" I knew the answer. I walked to the drawer, took out my laptop and a brand new legal pad I had bought for work notes and never used. I drew 4 columns across the top. Mortgage. Car. Utilities. Extras. Then I opened our banking app. Transfer after transfer. Payment after payment. Just this month. We will pay you back soon. Family helps family. I wrote down every amount, every date. 8 years of support, spread across that page like a spreadsheet of my own erasure. Marcus sat beside me without interrupting. He just slid a second pen across the table and let me write. By the time I finished, my hand ached. But the picture was clear. They built their life around my income, I said quietly. And their attitude around assuming it would never stop. Marcus nodded. Then we stop it, he said. And that is exactly what we did. I called the mortgage company first, asked what my options were as a co-borrower on my parents' house. The agent walked me through removal, refinancing, or sale. I wrote down every detail. Next, I called the auto lender. I told them no further refinancing or changes were allowed using my credit. Then I went through the list of emergency payments I had set up for my parents over the years. Automatic transfers, temporary savings cushions, bill pay setups. One by one, I canceled every single one. I emailed our accountant and asked for a full report of all family support we had provided in the last 8 years. Finally, I booked a consult with a family lawyer, not to sue anyone, but to make sure every boundary was documented. The whole plan was quiet. Administrative. No screaming, no threats. Just access closing, door by door. Around 2 in the morning, I closed my laptop. The house was still. Marcus set a mug of tea down in front of me. "Do you feel better?" he asked. "I do not feel better," I said. "I feel awake." 2 days later, the fallout started. My phone rang while I was making Aiden's lunch. "Robert." "Marie," he said, skipping any greeting. "There seems to be an issue with the mortgage. The payment did not go through." "There is no issue," I said. I canceled my part. The silence on the other end went sharp. "You canceled it?" "Without warning." "I warned you the night you told my sons to wait for Crumbs," I said. "You just were not listening." He started in on how this was their home, how they relied on that help. I did not argue. I just told him calmly that my support had ended. Before I could even put the phone down, Hannah started calling. Then texting. "What did you do?" she wrote. The car payment bounced. They said the co-signer blocked changes. "You know I cannot afford this right now." I stared at the screen, then typed back. "You will figure it out." The way my boys were expected to figure it out in that dining room. "That was a misunderstanding," she replied. "No," I wrote. "It was your real opinion. You said my sons were born to live off what is left. Now you know what that feels like." When my mother finally called on video, her face was tight with panic. "Sweetheart," Linda started, already in performance mode. "Your father and I are in a very difficult situation. Bills are piling up. We are going to lose everything. How can you do this to us?" I did not raise my voice. "You taught my sons they were only worth crumbs," I said. "I am not going to keep funding people who treat them that way." "You cannot punish us like this," she cried. "I am not punishing you," I answered. "I am just no longer paying for the life you built on my silence." For the first time in years, the desperation in their voices was not my problem to solve. In the weeks that followed, everything shifted slowly, then permanently. My parents moved out of the big house and into a smaller apartment across town. Hannah picked up extra shifts instead of planning new vacations. Their world did not end, it just shrank to the size of what they could actually afford. In my house, something different happened. Aiden stopped hovering at the edges of the table. He started pulling out the main chair and sitting down confidently. Noah stopped watching adults' faces before taking seconds. He would simply ask, "Can I have more?" and then smile when I said, "Of course you can." One night, as I watched them talk over each other at dinner, making jokes, sharing stories, not waiting for permission to exist, Marcus nudged me. "You are quieter lately," he said. "I am not quiet," I told him. "I am settled. And that is the word for it." Not revenge. Not victory. Just settled. Balanced. The truth is, it was never just about money. It was about space. Space for my boys to grow up knowing they are not less than anyone. Space for me to stop apologizing for existing. Space where love is not something you earn by paying everyone's bills. My parents taught my sons they were worth crumbs. That is the day I stopped feeding the system that starved them. Some boundaries break families. Mine did not break anything. It just revealed what was already there. My boys do not sit in corners anymore. And I will never apologize for choosing their worth over anyone else's comfort, not even my own parents. If this story hit you somewhere deep, stay with us. Tell me where you are listening from, share your own moment of drawing a line, and subscribe for more stories like this. You are not alone.